Greetings, guys and ghouls, and welcome back to the podcast where we talk about all things spooky, dial H for horror. I am your ghostess with the mostest, Shay.
And I'm your favorite final girl, Gina.
All right, welcome back, welcome back. Hold on, just getting myself a little situated here. It's good to be back again this week.
Yes, it is. How are you doing?
I am doing all right, all right. So, uh, we've got an interesting one this week for our movie.
We do. We are going over the sequel, the Netflix sequel of Texas Chainsaw Massacre this week.
Absolutely, yeah. This was my pick, and to put it plainly, I went into this knowing that it was going to be bad, considering the fact that I had seen the reviews, I had heard the vitriol that people had towards it, so I already knew it was going to be bad. Um, I actually just watched the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre for the first time on Wednesday, I think. So I'm not a for full transparency, I'm not a fan of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I've never liked the aesthetic. Um, I think that it's gross personally. Like, and I know it's supposed to be, but it's like, yeah, it's gross. Um, but I watched the
Yeah.
original recently just to see how it stacked. They stacked up, and yeah, I'm not sure it made me a fan. Either movie made me a fan.
I'd have to agree with you. I've never really been a Texas Chainsaw Massacre fan, mainly because I've heard from people in the past that the original just wasn't that good to them. And so it was never high up on my watch list.
Hmm.
Um, but this watching the sequel, I had zero desire to watch the original, and so I have not seen it. Is are there any is there anything that you can say about the original before we start our review of the sequel?
Um, I would say the original is definitely like a B movie. It's
Mhm.
very poor. I hate saying poorly done because I know they did work pretty hard on it, and I know it had like a shoestring budget, but it is very poorly done. The atmosphere is very grimy, as you would expect from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Um,
Mhm.
but I do feel that Leatherface is definitely more of an imposing character in the original than he is in the sequel, or the re-quel, as we're going to refer to it, Scream terms, because it's not necessarily a
True.
sequel, but it's not really a reboot, so it's like a requel. Um, yeah, I just feel like this movie, he wasn't as imposing as he was in the original. He definitely was imposing in the original. But yeah, I mean, I didn't care for it too much. I don't know if it's because
Mhm.
I didn't grow up watching it, or it wasn't one of those things that, like, you know, I was, like, crazy about, but I just was kinda like, "Okay." Like, first of all, Sally just spends the last 20 minutes of the movie just screaming, and half the time she's screaming for, like, no reason. Like, she's in a chair and they're just all eating people in front of her, and she's just screaming, and, like, at one point, they're, like, laughing and, like, looking at her, and she's just screaming, and I'm like, they're making fun of you. You can stop screaming at any point in time. Like, how are your vocal cords
Yeah,
still intact? I'm surprised you haven't torn them. And then there's one part
for real.
towards the end, me and my roommate actually was screaming at the TV at this part, um, where Sally escapes the Sawyer house, runs to the street, and there's a trucker going by, and he hits one of the brothers. He hits one of them with his truck, which is really funny because it's very obviously a dummy. Um, the guy gets out of his truck when Sally's running up, and Leatherface is literally right behind her. The guy gets out of his truck. She gets in the truck, he gets in the truck, and then they both get out of the truck again.
Okay, so it kinda sounds like a Sims 4 glitch where they're, like, sitting down at the table and getting up every 2 seconds.
That's pretty much what it felt like watching. It was like my roommate was like, "I don't understand why that man got out of his truck." And I was like, "I don't know either, man." Like, man's got out of his truck to let her in, and then Leatherface came and started, like, slicing on the door, and he wasn't going through the door. He didn't slice through the door. He was just going like this, like smacking against the door. And they both got out of the truck and then started running. And I'm like, okay.
Okay.
So yeah, going into this one, let's to have a little bit of background for this movie. I have here Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the new one was released on Netflix on February 18th, 2022. It was actually meant for a theatrical release in 2021, but for reasons unknown, became a Netflix exclusive. It was directed by David Blue Garcia and written by Fede Alvarez and Rodo Sayaguez, most known for their wildly intense 2013 remake of Evil Dead. This movie is cast with mostly unknown people, with the two main leads being mostly known for Sarah Yarkin's role in Happy Death Day to You and Elsie Fisher starring in comedian Bo Burnham's film Eighth Grade. Fisher was actually nominated for a Golden Globe for that role. The only person I recognized in the entire movie was the old woman who ran the orphanage because she was in the Silent Hill movie.
Same.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah, we watched that movie a lot, so we recognized her. I
I
was
was
just
like,
I was
oh.
like, "It's Christabella, not Christabella, no." Um, oh goodness, so
It was good to see her in this
it was
movie.
because
I
I haven't
missed
seen her in
her.
a long time in anything, and she was fantastic in the Silent Hill movie. So how did
Mhm.
you feel about the cast overall? Like, what did you think about the cast?
I mean, the cast, I don't have that many gripes with, like, their acting ability or anything. I think they did what they could with the material they were given. Um, but yeah, I don't know. The relationship between the sisters, I wish they built more on that
Mhm,
because I think in their own respect, both women were fantastic actresses,
mhm,
but I wanted to get more of, like, I wanted to see how close they were,
right,
and instead everything seemed very shallow at the beginning.
mhm,
um just teasing and those sorts of things, which I'm sure we'll get into in a minute. As far as the rest of the cast, they were like typical horror movie characters that you knew you weren't going to have around for too long.
absolutely,
So I was
absolutely,
just like, okay, so not that much of a personality here.
mhm,
It just felt weird, the time frame, like, it being a current t day, like, take on Texas Chainsaw Massacre,
mhm,
but they're going back to, like, this old ghost town, and everything just felt, I don't know, it it wasn't structured well enough for me,
mhm,
I guess. It felt
right,
disconnected all around,
yeah.
but I think the cast did what they could.
Absolutely, I agree with that. And so going back to where it says that this was supposed to have a wide release, but it ended up on Netflix only. I have no
Yeah, that's
idea.
interesting.
I couldn't find any information as to why they canceled the 2021 release and then just decided to make it for Netflix only and it didn't get a theatrical release. My only theory behind this is because it was lambasted so heavily at early screenings that they just said, you know what, straight to video,
Mhm.
pretty much like straight to video. We're going to throw this on Netflix and, we'll see if people watch it. That's the only thing I can think of because I looked up and down, every website I could find talking about the movie, and everything just said it was supposed to release in 2021 in theaters, and then it was pushed back and only was released on Netflix. So, um, and the other thing that I found out about this movie, like when I was researching, was that originally when they were planning this movie was back after the Leatherface origin film that they did, which was in 2015, and
Mhm.
they were supposed to be they were trying to do with this film, and we'll probably get into this more later, what they did with Halloween. That was the original
Okay.
plan, and the script that was written before what we got was focused heavily on Sally versus Leatherface, kind of like Laurie versus Michael. And
I
I
was getting those vibes, and
yeah,
I'm like, "I kind of want more of this," but
yeah,
it seemed like a D plot in the movie
yeah.
almost.
It
Not even
we'll
B.
we'll we'll go into it more later, but yeah, it was
Yeah.
definitely one of those situations where a lot happened behind the scenes and they screwed it up. They screwed up what they were trying to do just overall. So, let's get into the actual synopsis of the film here. All right, so the film opens up with a recap of the OG 1974 film. And when I say it's a recap, it's a legit recap. I mean, they basically spell the entire movie out for you if you've never seen it. I never saw it, but I knew enough about it that I didn't even need that recap. It was just kind of like, all right, like thanks for telling me exactly what happened in the 1974 movie. So it's running a direct line between both movies and stating how Sally, as we know, was the only survivor. She apparently became a sheriff hell bent on finding the man who imprisoned her and helped kill all of her friends, but she never found him, and it's unclear if she's even still part of the police force. It's important to note that the original actress who played Sally, Marilyn Burns, passed away in 2014, so unfortunately she couldn't reprise her role. Instead, they got Irish actor Olwen Fuere to play her, and I'd say it's pretty good casting because she does look a lot like an older version of Sally.
I actually did not know that she passed away.
Yeah.
I tried to not look up anything about this
Mhm.
movie since I knew you were doing research this week for the pod, and I wanted to have my like authentic reactions to things, but that's really interesting. She does look a lot
Mhm.
like she it was great
It
casting,
was. It was
basically.
really great casting. It's kinda sad that she was wasted the way she was because she looked
Yeah,
exactly like her, and I think if they had given her more screen time, she probably would have chewed that scenery and, like, killed that performance.
for
But
real.
yeah, no, I knew it wasn't the original actress, I just didn't know who they got to replace her because I did remember when Marilyn Burns had passed away in 2014. I remember that, like, a lot of
Mhm.
people in the horror community speaking about that because it was, like, our iconic final girl, rest in peace, and
Yeah,
I was like, "Oh, man, that sucks," but, yeah, I mean, at least they got somebody I think that looked enough like Sally to, continue that storyline. So,
yeah, I agree. That's sad
it
though.
is, it's very sad. So from there, we meet up with our four titular characters, young entrepreneurs, Dante and Melody. Dante is played by Jacob Lattimore, who was in the recent House Party remake, and Melody is played by Yarkin. We also meet Melody's younger sister, Lila, who is played by Fisher, and Dante's girlfriend, Ruth, who is played by Outlander actress Nell Hudson. They're filling up at a gas station where you can see that this particular town relishes in the grisly history of the Sawyer family massacre. There's merchandise featuring chainsaws being sold in the gas station, including a t shirt that says I Heart Texas, but the state of Texas has a chainsaw designed onto it. The gas station attendant, Herb, offers Lila and Melody a t shirt before they walk out. As the four are finishing filling up their tank, a truck blaring metal music pulls up and out pops a man with a gun on his hip because this is Texas and that's legal. Melody, clearly upset about him carrying the weapon so openly, remarks about the size of his manhood, to which the trucker replies that they have a wild hog infestation and the only way to handle it is to eradicate them however necessary. The others urge Melody to get in the car before the trucker turns violent, alluding to how out of touch they are with a society that isn't the city. Um, so I just want to say real quick before I hear your thoughts on this be opening the trucker actually turned out to be one of the only characters I genuinely liked in this movie.
Same.
He was one of the only characters that actually had any redeeming qualities, and I kind of can applaud them for doing the bait and switch where you see this truck pouring smoke out the back, coming up, blaring metal music. This guy comes out that looks like completely like a bigot, basically, like you would expect. He's got the first thing they do is focus the shot on the gun on his hip, and then you hear Melody say her ignorant comment, and he turns around and he's just like, we have wild hogs, and if we don't do something then they take over. Like, this is why I have this. And it's like, okay, you kind of feel that, like, okay, she's ignorant to, like, yeah, okay, it's awkward to see somebody walking around with a weapon on their hip, but at the same time, this he's not a bad he doesn't seem like a bad person. He's just
Right, like,
country.
where you are, that's how people live their life here,
Mhm.
you know?
Exactly.
Like
And it just made you kind of it almost made me say, like, even though I would probably have the same knee jerk reaction, I wouldn't say anything out loud, but if I saw somebody, I would be like, "Oh god, I got to get in my car." Like, I'd freak out,
mhm,
just because, you don't know what people's intentions are, especially in this day and age. Um but it kind of makes you go, "Okay, Melody, like, you need to calm down." Like, you need to calm down. You're doing too
yeah,
much. But
way too much. I was like, "You need to close your mouth because
exactly.
that's how something's gonna happen to you. If you just
Mhm.
went ahead and went about your business
Mhm.
and pumped your gas and everything, then this guy would have no problems with you." But it's
Absolutely.
the fact that you just went ahead and just kept running your damn mouth.
Mhm. Exactly. So what did you think of, like, this opening sequence of the movie?
It was I was interested at this point. I wanted to see where it was going. I was actually very interested in, like, the fact that they had the gas station was, like, a store with memorabilia from, the incident that takes place in the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Right.
Um, it kind of felt like when I've, like, traveled to, like, Georgia and there were, like, Bigfoot museums on the side of the road, and,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a cryptid person, like, through and through, so, like, I was really into it, but,
Oh my
um
gosh.
it was giving that same vibe where it's like, here's, like, the roadside attraction, like, you wanna check out something scary, like, hear about this. We have, like, the videos playing of, like, the news reports and
Mhm.
stuff, so it felt believable, it felt like something that the town would do. I do feel like a lot of towns that are in the middle of nowhere, they, if they have this one story, they're gonna work with it and they're gonna make a roadside museum out of it.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, as for the cast of characters, first meeting them, I kind of just automatically didn't care for anybody. Everyone felt just very shallow, very base level, but I did want to get to know everyone more
Mhm.
and just gain more of an understanding of, like, why are y'all here if y'all are like y'all don't like the people who live here.
Yeah, exactly. No, I agree with that. I thought it was really interesting too how they were like basically capitalizing on the tragedy because yeah, you do see that with a lot of places that have like those stories. Like I mean, there's the Lizzie Borden Airbnb, or not Airbnb. It's just a bed and breakfast. It's like you can stay in the house where two people were murdered brutally with an axe. It's like okay. Like, I mean,
That's fun.
like it's just
Uh,
it's just crazy. I mean, people have that morbid fascination with those types of things, but yeah, the memorabilia was an interesting touch overall. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it felt very believable
Oh
to me,
yeah.
so I I definitely it was interesting, like, interesting is definitely the word,
Mhm.
but I was just like, "Okay, I'm interested in the town and everything." It made me more interested in the town than it did the main cast.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So afterwards, we get a glimpse of a bullet wound on Lila's chest and her scrolling through social media to see posts about a high school saying never forget. And we are immediately aware of why Melody was so up in arms about a man openly carrying a gun. After being stopped by the cops for a bit of negging, the four arrive at the town of Harlow, Texas, an abandoned town that Dante and Melody have plans to gentrify and make livable for hipsters who think small towns like that are cool. But before they can get on with their plans, they realize that the trucker Melody openly insulted is actually a man named Richter, played by Mo Dunford of Vikings fame. And Richter is the one heading the construction on their new project. As Dante is looking around his new town, he spots a Confederate flag hanging from one of the buildings. Rightfully freaked out by it, he and Melody decide to go into the house it's hanging over and try and remove it. It's here that they realize someone is still living in town. That someone is Mrs. MC, played by Alice Krieg, who also has one of my favorite horror movie deaths of all time in Silent Hill. And she used to run
Yes.
the orphanage, but now she only cares for one quote unquote boy, as she calls him. Dante and Melody try to explain to her that they now own every building in town and she needs to GTFO, but Mrs. MC insists that she won't leave. It's her and her son's home. Dante leaves to get the police and have her removed after the old woman insults him. She tries to work one over on Melody, begging to stay in her home. Her son appears at the top of the stairs, watching this desperate scene. The police arrive and insist that the woman and her son must leave. At that moment, the woman begins to have a massive heart attack, and they carry her out to their van with her son in tow. Melody feels guilty that the woman is dying and offers to go with, but Dante insists that everything will be fine and she's more needed at the town than wherever they're taking her. Ruth offers to go in exchange so that Melody will feel better, but that turns out to be a bad idea. While on the road, Mrs. MC dies in her son's arms, prompting him to go crazy, snap the deputy's arm in half, and kill him by stabbing him repeatedly with his own bone in the neck. The deputy discharges his weapon, and the bullet hits the sheriff, who is driving, in the back of the head. Ruth looks on as the scene of horror unfolds before the van careens off the road and crashes, leaving Ruth temporarily trapped with the man who will soon become Leatherface.
Yeah, this scene got me, like, I started getting into it here.
Mhm.
Just because of the death, like, alone. Like, dude, did he just stab this man with his own
His
bone?
own
What
bone.
was it? It was his wrist, right?
It was like this part, like the middle part of his arm, like he snapped like the I don't remember what
Yeah.
this bone is called, but he snapped that bone in half and then started stabbing him in the neck with it.
Oh, man. I
It's
was
a
like,
pretty gnarly way to
"That's
go.
pretty dope." Yeah.
Yeah.
It entertained me. Probably the wrong word to use, but it entertained me. Um,
No, I mean, that's what it's for, that's why they do it.
that's true. That's why I do it. Yeah, it was interesting, and I was just like, "Damn, I would be so scared here." I would be like, "I need to go. This town's still got this problem."
And this problem is starting up again, here we go again.
It's starting up again,
It's
and it's
actually
gonna be me.
actually, upon research, Harlow even it's never clear, but Harlow's not the town where it happened. Harlow's a completely
Oh,
different town.
really?
Yeah, Harlow's a completely different town. Again, this is one
Mm,
of my big problems with the movie, and I'll probably go into this in more detail like later on. But they
mhm.
don't explain stuff like this. They didn't explain
Yeah, like
not the town where the massacre happened. Like your brain, because you saw the memorabilia in the gas station, you automatically assume Harlow's where it happened, but it's not. It's a completely different town.
interesting.
And I'm just like, all right, okay. Like you guys didn't explain that, but yeah, when I was looking it up, it said that it's a different town. So I don't know. I
Okay.
don't know.
Is it at least close by?
Who knows? I'm
Like
assuming maybe it's like I mean, to be fair, the Sawyer house in the original just seems like it's in the middle of nowhere. Like the houses
Mm,
that they go to, I can't remember what the name of the city is where they're going to they're going somewhere. They're going to like an old abandoned house that one of the kids in the original ones their parents own, and the Sawyer house is like across the creek from them, but it also looks like it's in the
okay.
middle of nowhere. There's like nothing around at all either houses except for one gas station that's also a slaughterhouse.
So the town of Harlow is just like, maybe like a it's quite a few miles away, but that's the closest place they could go to get some eggs, some milk, human
Yeah,
heart,
pretty
liver,
much, yeah.
dinner.
But yeah, we'll definitely talk about that at the end because there's like
Yeah.
there's some things that like just piss me off about this movie overall, and like I'll explain kind of why later on going
Hmm.
when we're done with the synopsis. But
Absolutely, yeah.
while Melody and Dante are auctioning off buildings to their investors, Lila goes exploring and ends up in Richter's garage. They get to talking after she spots an AR on his workbench. She picks it up in an attempt to get over her fear, but immediately has a flashback of the massacre that took place in her high school and freaks out. When Richter questions her freak out, she tells him the story of what happened to her. She also reveals how she's dealing with survivor's guilt, stating how her friends who perished in the massacre were the ones who were going to be something and how she wasn't anything special. This is important to understand Lila's character and also to understand her place in the second massacre that's going to happen in her life later in this movie. Meanwhile, Ruth is still in the van, but now Leatherface has pulled his quote unquote mother's body away and is slowly hacking away at her face to make a new mask. Ruth is trying to find a way out after having sent a text to Melody to let her know of the old woman's passing. She also sends out a distress call via police radio, which Herb, the gas station attendant, overhears and places a call out for Sally to come and investigate things. Once Leatherface is done with his new creation, he goes over to the van to look for survivors. He finishes off the sheriff, who we were originally made to believe had died from a bullet wound, and he eventually kills Ruth after she makes a boneheaded attempt to escape the vehicle while he's still out there. Then we get a hilarious shot of Leatherface poking his head out of a field of sunflowers, which is just ridiculous. There's
And
and
wholesome.
wholesome. He heads back to Harlow to continue his rampage. I'm sorry, that shot sent me when I first saw it. Like I was like, what is going on? This man's just head just poking out of the field, like with the I don't know. It was funny. It was like a memeable moment. I don't know how, but it was a
It was a memeable moment. I want it on a t-shirt,
oh
honestly.
my gosh, that's so stupid. Okay, back in town after receiving the message from Ruth about the old woman passing, Melody confronts Dante upset. Richter then shows up, takes the keys from the bus that all the investors arrived in, and demands that Dante shows him that he does, for certain, have the deed to Mrs. MC's house. Once he sees the deed, he says he'll give the keys back. When Dante goes looking for it, absolutely certain he has it until he realizes he doesn't. Him and Melody go back into the house looking for it. Melody eventually does find the deed locked away in a chest, meaning that Dante never did get the deed to Mrs. MC's house, and they had kicked out an old woman from her own home, which had inadvertently caused her death. While Melody is realizing this, Dante hears a noise and goes to investigate. It's there he meets the better part of a meat cleaver at the hands of Leatherface. And I want to share what my roommate said as this scene is played out. Because as Leatherface goes to look over Dante's body, she says, "You can't wear his face, that'll get you canceled." Which is not only funny because Dante is black, but also funny because later, someone pretty much says this to Leatherface before getting killed by him.
I forgot about that part. Um, so this part of the movie here, I will be honest, this is when I started losing
Same.
interest, a little bit. Yeah, okay, so it was starting to drag for you here too.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking down at my phone at this point,
Me.
actually, and I was just like, "Huh? Oh, what happened? Oh."
Yeah, I was watching my cat run around.
There you go. Yeah, it just I don't know. The whole section where they are trying to find the deed, it just felt very slow paced. I wasn't getting any real information here. Like, yeah, sure. Oh, okay, so the lady actually did live here. Kind of felt like a no shit, she did.
Mm-hmm.
um, but yeah, it just this is when I started losing interest, and the pacing of the movie just felt off to me overall. Moving back to what you were discussing earlier, though, when Lila is handling the AR,
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, "Where you go picking up people's weapons like that?" I
Yeah.
have to make a comment on it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
um, it it felt weird to me. I felt like they were pushing her backstory onto me, which is important for this movie,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. I mean, that's how she coined the name for me, Bad Luck Lila.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I don't know, the scene felt weird, and I guess we'll talk about it more in a bit, but it just really felt like they were trying to make her and I'm blinking on his name right
Richter.
now, but Richter, thank you. Um it I got weird vibes of like are they together? Are they
Yeah.
supposed to be together?
Yeah, and she was
Uh
definitely she was definitely coined as like a child. Like she was definitely supposed to be underage. So it
absolutely.
was kind of weird, especially
Absolutely.
when Melody goes to find her and like he's sitting on a bed and she's in the bathroom smoking a cigarette and it's like that's sus. Like, and then she
Yeah.
even asks like did you sleep with him and she's like no, of course not. And I'm like well, seemed like you did.
W- Would it that shouldn't even be a question because
Exactly, cuz she's
you're a kid, right?
exactly. Hey, who knows? Maybe Lila be out here wildin'. I don't know.
What Lila, you bad luck, Lila, okay? you,
Of
you
course.
have no business being out there doing all that.
Oh god, yeah. Um,
Let's hear the next bit.
okay.
I'm excited.
Once Melody goes downstairs and finds Dante's body, she hides in the old woman's closet. Leatherface eventually comes in and cuddles her clothes until he hears a bunch of loud music blaring. He looks out the window to see that the investors are now partying in the bus that they arrived on. He decides to continue his rampage and goes off to look for his weapon of choice, a chainsaw. This gives Melody the chance to go and hide under the bed while planning her escape. Meanwhile, Dante is somehow still alive, though missing half his jaw. He manages to stumble out of the house onto the sidewalk. Richter spots him and goes to confront him when he realizes the extent of his injuries. He goes to him just as Dante collapses and dies holding his hand. Richter then goes off to investigate the house when he comes face to face with Leatherface. Take a shot every time I say face. Um, they square off as Richter seems to get the better of him, but Leatherface stabs him in the neck with a piece of glass, then proceeds to beat his head in with a hammer as Melody watches helplessly from under the bed. Before Richter dies, he spots her hiding there and subtly takes the bus keys from his pocket, leaving them there so she has a chance to escape. F in the chat for Richter, guys. F in the chat for Richter.
Yeah, for real. Because like at this point, I was just like, I feel like my favorite character just died.
Pretty much, he was the only character worth like caring about, honestly.
Yeah, he had the most substance for me.
Yeah, he did have the most substance and like the most common sense. I mean, and he went toe to toe with Leatherface and like he held his own until Leatherface stabbed him
He
in the
held
neck.
his own. Exactly.
Like Leatherface was about to go. Like he was against those bars. Like oh, you could see the fear in his eyes. He was like, "This is not how I'm supposed to go out. Not be a redneck." All
hmm
right. Lila leaves the party bus to go and investigate and runs into one of the investors, Catherine, who spotted Dante as he was dying and is horrified. Lila walks around, catching a glimpse of Dante's body as well. Melody then attempts to make her escape by grabbing the keys before she runs into Leatherface, now brandishing his iconic chainsaw. He gives chase, and Melody ends up underneath the floorboards, crawling away from his chainsaw until it cuts a pipe in half and sprays her with raw sewage. I also want to point out that I laughed so hard when he spotted her from the top of the stairs and then threw the hammer at her. That was hilarious. The way she just went flying when he threw the hammer, she was like, her whole body just went flying back.
I was like, is that Thor's hammer?
I was like almost in tears. I was like, what is happening in this movie? She just went flying half a foot back. Like, holy crap, dude.
Bro, I don't know. This scene.
This scene. It's then that Lila spots her and helps her get out from under the house. They run back to the bus and into the party. This is when the best scene in the entire film happens. The party bus scene.
Yes, I agree. I really think it was good that the party bus scene happens after what I just felt like was one of the dumbest scenes, because like Melody could have done better. She was not giving Final Girl.
No.
I'm just gonna say it. Too many dumb mistakes, I personally feel. When she was like jumping down the stairs, like jumping from the banister, I'm like, girl,
why are we doing parkour?
Quiet? Yeah, exactly.
Parkour.
Like Leatherface is like, bro, are you for real?
Like, be so for real right now. Be so for real, Melody.
It's just my face that's covered, not my ears. Like,
it's like, and I can still see you.
Yeah, like,
yeah.
What the heck? The way she's like peeking into his room and stuff, I was just like, girl.
Yeah.
I would have stayed put, personally.
Exactly. Stayed put till you heard him leave. You heard the door close.
Yeah, to stay right underneath that bed. Make sure he is gone. Not just not down the hall like he's your brother.
Exactly.
In the next room.
Exactly. But the party bus scene, like, okay, so as great as the party bus scene is for gorehounds, it irritates me because it is the best scene in the entire movie, but as I've stated before, I don't like gore without a plot line, and that's what it felt like this movie was. And this party bus scene just basically solidified it. Yes, in and of itself, it's awesome to see a bunch of like hipster people just get massacred, especially a stupid guy with a stupid camera live streaming. He's like, "Do anything, and you'll get canceled."
The fact that like 20 people like put their phones up, I'm just like, bro,
yeah,
not one of y'all are calling the police.
And that's the thing. One of the things that bothers me about modern horror movies, like horror movies that are set in this day and age, is that I think that the thing they tend to forget is that not everybody is like that. Yes, a lot of us are going to whip out our phones and try to get a video of something going on, but there's still going to be somebody that's going to say, "All right, you're filming. I'm going to call the police." Like, there's still going to be somebody that says that. Like, we're not all just going to take our phones out when everybody's filming in a different angle. Like, nobody does that, you know? And 9 times out of 10, if I'm somewhere and there's something going down, I don't take my phone out and like start filming. I'm like, I need to get out of this situation. How do I leave? Like,
exactly.
Even
I'm
if it's
looking
just
for
like
an
people,
escape route.
even if it's just people like yelling at cashiers, I'm like, I don't want to listen to this. I'm gonna go down a different aisle. Like, I don't want to deal with this. I'm not standing there like, let me get my phone out so I can film this, you know? Like, I don't think that, you know, like, and I was like, yeah, you're gonna have a few people who are gonna behave like that, but like the fact that the entire bus stopped moving and every single person took their phones out to film, I'm like, come on, like that. Now you're just trying to paint this picture that everybody's vapid like that, and it's like, you know, most people still have some substance to them aside from their phones. Like, stop with the whole like, oh, everybody's glued to their phones, and like if they see some scary guy, they're just gonna take their phone out and be like, you're gonna get canceled if you do anything to me, haha. It's like, oh god, it was such lazy.
It felt so disconnected.
It did. It felt very disconnected.
Like, the message they were probably trying to send. This one moment in the scene was trying to do what Spree needed an entire movie to do. And they didn't even try. They were just like, all right, so everyone takes their phones out and just stands there. Maybe somebody says a funny little quip to Leatherface. Like, no.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm sorry, but you got to think real world terms. Like, if somebody if people are in a small space like that, like a bus, and some dude walks on a bus with a chainsaw, dressed like that, probably smelling stank, you know, walks on a bus like that, I don't think everybody's going to get their phone out and start filming. I think they're going to be like, I think we're going to die. I think I think somebody's going to kill us. Like, and especially you can't even use the whole like oh well they didn't have, they don't have horror movies in this universe because literally there was a massacre in the same state that apparently is famous enough that everyone knows about. So you mean to tell
That's the
me
other thing I was
you're
gonna bring up.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're in Texas where there was a chainsaw massacre happened. A guy with a mask made of human skin massacred people with a chainsaw, which he really doesn't do very much of in the original movie. It's not too much chainsaw action happening. Um,
Oh, okay.
yeah, it's mostly like hammer and stuff like that, and putting a girl on a meat
Mm.
hook. um,
Yeah,
but
heard of that one.
yeah, you have this city where this happened, and everyone's like in the city. They see a guy dressed up in the even if you think it's fake, like for a second, you're gonna be like, I don't know if I want to take my chance though. What if there's a copycat? They never
Exactly.
caught the guy who did this, so what if that's a copycat?
Yeah, like, it may
So
not be the same guy, but this could be somebody who's, like, a fanatic, and
yeah,
wants to recreate this whole
mm-hmm,
thing. I don't know, it just felt weird that, like, no one ever heard about this. They're like, "You're gonna get canceled if you do something," and, like, no, it feels like I would immediately think about, "Oh, where I am?
yeah,
What happened in this area? The fact
mm-hmm.
that there is a museum on the way here at the gas station?"
Mhm. Exactly.
Like,
And to be quite honest, like it for me it just felt very like I guess you could say in some ways disrespectful because and there's a lot of my biggest problem with this movie is like we're trying to make people feel we're trying to make people feel like this group of people, these people that are trying to gentrify this town, the people that are coming in, like they're all just vapid, airheaded people and that like you almost sort of feel like okay well then Leatherface is kind of justified in doing this, and it's like you shouldn't feel that way. You shouldn't feel that way. It's like that's kind of the problem the original movie has is because all five of the kids are annoying in the original movie, and it's like
mm,
they're even Sally is annoying. Like there's no likable characters, and it's like okay, like I don't want to deal with this. Like I don't want to like deal with some like watch a movie where there's people just being annoying and stupid and like just unlikable. Like I don't want to watch that. And I don't know. It just felt like they were doing everything in their power to make everybody unlikable in this movie, including the people that came in on the bus.
oh, absolutely, yeah, and, that kinda goes with what I was saying earlier, where how, like, just the main cast just feels shallow to me, like, and it's exactly, like, it's the group of hipsters taking over a town, and they're like, "Oh, we can put a coffee shop over here, and we can, like, have our dogs as a" whatever they say, like, is the stereotype for a
Mm-hmm.
hipster, basically.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know, it just didn't make me like anybody. I didn't feel attached to anybody, and then with the bus scene, I don't know, it's just like that could have felt scary, but
Mm-hmm.
instead I was just like, "Alright, let's see what kinda cool kills we're about to get here."
Yeah.
Um,
And they were cool, but it was just like okay, it's just getting more and more unnecessary. The more blood, guts,
yeah,
and gore you're spraying everywhere, it's just like okay, but why? But why?
yes, but why?
Like but why are you spraying all this? And I don't want to hear the oh well his they're the reason his mom died. It's like yeah they are, but again it's all just to me like a gross overreaction overall. So I
Mhm.
don't know. I mean the party bus scene was awesome in and of itself when you think about like iconic slasher moments. I think it definitely is up
Oh,
there
yeah.
in brutality. It's definitely up there in brutality, but you got to give me something more than that. You got to give me something more than
It's a
that.
really great slasher scene that's kind of wasted in a not so great slasher movie.
Right. All right. We are getting towards the end here. Yay. All right. After the ghastly scene on the bus, Sally finally comes to remind us that she exists. She arrives just in time to save Melody and Lila, but of course decides to take on Leatherface alone. She wanders through the house until she eventually finds him, trying to get in the girl's car or get the girls in the car. She manages to fire off a few shots, chasing him away, but is quickly dispatched with his chainsaw, cutting her legacy shorter than it should have been. Melody decides to try and run Leatherface over with Sally's car, but the girls end up crashing in Richter's garage, and Melody's leg is impaled with a metal bar. Lila desperately tries to help her escape, but Melody tells her to run. Leatherface is fast approaching, and Melody will more than likely die at his hands. This highlights how, once again, Lila will be the only survivor of those she knew in a massacre, bringing her trauma about. As Lila leaves, Sally is somehow still alive. She gives her shotgun with 2 bullets loaded and tells Lila that she can't run because Leatherface will haunt her for the rest of her life. This leads to Lila and Leatherface doing battle in the garage, with Leatherface getting the best of Lila until Melody, after freeing herself from the car, comes and joins in the fight. Lila fires off the 2 rounds into Leatherface's chest, and Melody finishes him off with an uppercut from his chainsaw. Leatherface falls back into a pool of water and sinks to the bottom, finally freeing Melody and Lila from this nightmare. So this is where I'm going to spoil the ending. This movie is not really worth the watch in our opinion, so we'll save you the hour and change and just tell you how it ends. If you do still want to watch it, you can stop here and come back to this episode after you've watched it. We'll give you a few seconds to leave before we talk about the ending. So, I actually think the ending is pretty great, and had it not been spoiled for me, it would have been an amazing twist. This is probably the best thing the movie did narratively because it really makes you feel the hopelessness of this situation. Melody and Lila get to the car they arrived in, which is self driving, and they're relieved that they'll live to see another day. They quip back and forth about moving to Harlow, laughing, when all of a sudden, Leatherface appears out of nowhere and busts the window open, dragging Melody out of the car. Lila looks on and watches with us helplessly while Leatherface dramatically beheads Melody in the middle of the street. Lila screams for her sister as the car slowly drives her away, leaving her as the sole survivor of the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Melody's head before the credits roll.
Yeah. So, um, two things with like the conclusion of this movie. Um,
Hmm.
First off, when who is it again? Is it Melody or Lila that um hits Leatherface, like chin checks Leatherface with the chainsaw?
Melody.
Melody. Okay, I thought so. I was just kind of like, not enough. Not enough. This is a big
No,
dude.
it wasn't enough.
Okay, we got to make sure we have
Mhm.
to like cut his head off. Like, I don't, you guys need to get in that water. You've already been covered with sewage. Like, we need to make sure he's gone.
Mhm.
So that's how I knew for sure at that point. I'm like, okay, he's gonna come back and kill one of them. Um, Secondly,
Mhm.
this was my biggest laugh of the movie. Here was the ending. When sorry, I was laughing just thinking about it. When Lila is driving away in the self-driving car, watching her sister be beheaded,
Mhm.
but it's like the car is moving so slow.
I know.
She's like,
It was moving so slow.
"No." Like, I was like, "You could get out, I guess." It felt weird. I'm like, I would start driving the car fast at this point because that also felt weird that
Yeah.
they used the self-driving feature. I'm like, "No, you need to speed out of here. Like, why are you guys going, like, 4 miles an hour?"
Exactly. Yeah. No, I was spoiled for the ending because I was watching a lot of those like listicles when this movie came out, and one of
Mhm.
the things that people talked about like was the ending a lot of this movie. So I was spoiled, so I already knew it was going to happen, like from the beginning of the movie, obviously. Um, but I genuinely like I didn't think I thought if I had seen the movie and known that he like saw the uppercut scene, I would have known he was coming back, but I wouldn't have thought that one of them was going to die. I would have thought that he would like they would drive off and then you would see him come back like as a setup for a sequel. Like you would just see him like the chain him pull the chainsaw and
Yeah.
rev it. Like that would have been my thought. It wouldn't have been like, oh, he's gonna come and pull and kill one of them, because like the way I saw it was like they're gonna let these two go and then he's gonna come back and then like they're gonna try to have another movie and then like but they're gonna set it up where like either they do a shot where you see him coming out the water dramatically, or they do a shot where he's just like standing in the road watching them drive off and like revving the chainsaw and because he's mad.
Mm.
So I would have genuinely been shocked at him pulling Melody out of the car and beheading her, because I would have just thought, though they were trying to set up a sequel, they're gonna try to set up a sequel, so he's obviously not dead, but like, oh, now one of them is dead.
Yeah.
Um, so, but I mean, I personally thought like the ending was the best because Melody was the weakest of the two, in my
Oh,
opinion. She was just
absolutely.
dumb and she kept making dumb moves the entire time. Um, but and B, like, it, like I said, it was something that is definitely like, he's going to be alive, but you don't expect necessarily one of them to die. I don't know. I could just be an idiot and like not think that way. Like my brain goes to, because other people might be like, no, I knew they were going to die. Like one of them, at least one of them was going to
I
die.
mean,
Like
everyone has different
I don't know.
perspectives and everything, and I mean, I think that's why it's great that we have this discussion because I wouldn't have thought about it
Yeah.
in the way you did. So honestly, my knee jerk reaction right now is like, oh, I'm stupid. I should have thought of it that way.
No.
So
No,
you're
I'm pretty
valid.
sure everybody, like, I mean, like, and I think it's also too the reason why I thought of it as such a surprise is because when I was watching a lot of the listicles and people were talking about that scene, they were talking about how shocked they were that they actually killed one of the sisters off at the end.
Mm,
Like they were for sure one of them was gonna, they both were gonna live, and then that happened. And so I don't know, like if it's, I don't know if it's a popular opinion, if it's a popular thought that I had, or if it's unpopular, if me and those people are the outliers and everybody else is more like where you were, where they were like, no, I knew one of them was going to die. Like I knew he was like, she uppercutted him. Like
mm.
he was coming back for her.
I guess this is like a good time to like ask the listeners to like tell us what they
Hmm.
thought if they've watched this
Yeah.
movie or if they're going to watch the movie after hearing our review. What did you think was going to happen? Um
Yeah.
or how did that scene read to you? I'd like to know.
Yeah.
Like, it's like taking a little poll,
Yeah.
you know?
Like we'd like to know. And maybe I'll add it into the Spotify one because you can add polls for that one. So
Oh, sweet.
maybe I can add that one into the Spotify one. Um, but yeah, so overall, this movie was trash.
Yeah.
I'm not like I said at the beginning, I'm not a big fan of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I just watched the original for the first time a couple days after I watched the requel, and I'm just kind of like I don't get it. I mean, maybe it's not for me to get, but I don't get it, and I don't understand the enjoyment of this film. And I kind of, the way I see it is I feel like this movie, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022, I feel like this movie is how I feel about Halloween Ends, like how a lot of diehard fans of Texas Chainsaw Massacre hated this movie. I feel like it's kind of like how I felt about Halloween Ends, where you're just like, why did you do this? You didn't need to do this. Like, you ruined everything for us in this sense. Um, and what I found out when I was doing my research, like researching for the script and researching the characters and everything, what I found out was that they originally, when like I said, they originally were writing a different script entirely, and they had a different director. Everything was like different, and I guess they had creative differences. Fede Alvarez had like some creative differences with the director, and he was canned. And then they brought in David Blue Garcia,
Hmm.
and they rewrote the movie,
Oh,
and
interesting.
they changed a lot of the stuff they were originally going to do, which they didn't say what it was that they were going to originally do, but they changed a lot of the stuff they were originally going to do. Because, like I said, they were trying to do like a Halloween 2018 with this movie, and it was going to
Yeah.
focus mostly on Sally basically reuniting with Leatherface and getting her revenge. And I don't know if maybe it's because they thought it was too close to Halloween
I was about
2018
to
that they
say
scaled back
that may be
Sally's
the
role.
case.
They could have scaled back Sally's role for that. And as much as I understand that point of view, I also think it was a dumb move because they basically took their iconic final girl, even if it's not the original actress, they took their iconic final girl and they shelved her
Mhm.
for a bunch of unlikable like teenagers who no one has any connection with. They weren't really teenagers, I guess they were 20 somethings.
Yeah.
That nobody had any connection with. They were basically just sacks of meat for Leatherface to cut through.
Yeah.
Um,
You took the words right
yeah,
out of my mouth there, honestly, because that is how it feels. Like, I don't know, Sally should have been the one to at least chin check him. If we're not gonna kill him,
yeah,
should have at least chin checked
yeah.
him. I mean, she gave these girls so many chances to, like, to
Mhm.
kill this guy, while she's, like,
Mhm.
laying in the street dying, and,
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
they completely wasted it. Like, if she had stayed alive and was with them, like, she would have made sure he was dead, you
Oh yeah, she
know?
would have double
And
tapped. She would have went back.
oh, she double
She
tapped. Absolutely.
she would double tapped.
She's a final girl, she knows what she's doing.
Exactly.
But yeah, and I don't know, it just did not feel satisfying to me,
Mhm.
in that regard, like, seeing her die, and I guess that's why I just, was like, they're probably gonna kill one of these sisters, and I assumed it would be Melody,
Yeah.
because they definitely tug at the heartstrings more when it comes to Lila with her backstory and everything.
Mhm.
Um, so I was like, they're probably gonna kill her off. I mean, if Sally's gone, you know,
Yeah. And personally, now that you bring that up, I honestly think they should have killed Lila off instead of Melody,
it would
because
have
I
been more
feel
interesting.
like it would have been more interesting, and it also would have closed her story out, because she felt, you could tell, and I wish they would have dived into it a little bit more. You could tell she felt immense survivor's guilt from surviving the massacre that happened when she was in high school. You could tell she felt that immense survivor's guilt, and it would have been so much better to see her go and know that Melody now has to experience what she experienced, which is, I lost everybody, and now I have to live with that, and I have to live with the people I've lost. Leaving her alive to me was cheap writing. Leaving her
Yeah,
alive was cheap writing, in my opinion, because it was like, now this poor girl who's already been through this once now has to live with this again,
do it again.
and that's not fair
Exactly.
to her. It should have been Melody that lived, not because Melody was a better final girl, but because Lila has already been through enough. Like,
Yeah.
they should have let it be Lila. And I don't know if they like filmed an ending where they killed Lila and they were like, nah, we don't like that, we think it's like in poor taste because she's like a victim of a massacre
Mhm.
already. But like, at the same time, it's like, but it's not the same type of massacre, and
Mhm.
you know
It would
they
have
could have.
done something where it's like you could see if they like went even further with the ending and you just see like Melody talking about how like now I see things through my sister's eyes. I understand. I wish I was there for her more. Whatever,
Mhm.
where it kind of it would come full circle for Melody. Um
Mhm.
I would have appreciated that more in an ending, but instead we've got the slowest moving car and Leatherface is just like,
Slowest moving
"Hope you
car.
come back." He's not even
Just dancing. He's just
like
like, "Wee, wee."
like, it just felt
Which
so dumb. I'm like, "He could take 2 steps and catch up with you."
also, the ending with him dancing high key pisses me off, because in I know a lot about the production of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, even though I don't really care for that movie all that much.
Mhm.
And the reason the original movie ends with that scene, I believe, is because the actor Gunnar Hansen that was playing Leatherface, he actually like hurt himself, and he started flailing around with the chainsaw, and they thought it was so cool they just told him to continue doing it.
I see.
There is a reason for him doing that in the original movie. It was came from a production thing, and it's like they're trying to do an homage to it in the new one, and it's just like, he doesn't even look like he's like he cares. Like the
No.
Leatherface that's doing it, like when you look at the original scene where Leatherface is flailing around with his chainsaw at the end, it's actually kind of chilling, because you can see the frustration that he's so mad that Sally got away.
Yes.
Like, he's just so pissed. He's just like, "Ah," swinging the chainsaw wildly. But then you get to this one, and it's like, he doesn't even look triumphant. Like, yeah, I got one of them at least. Like, he's just like, yay, I have a head and a chainsaw. Wee.
That's
It's like he
interesting.
just looks
That's enough
so.
to make me wanna watch the first one just to see the difference. I mean, I
Mhm.
guess I could just watch the endings and compare them, but,
Yeah,
like,
you could.
yeah, you're like, "Yeah, don't watch it."
Yeah,
Save
you
yourself.
could.
Um,
Yeah.
but that is really interesting though, because like I can see it more being like you have the chainsaw, you're just in this fit of rage from all these
Mhm.
murders you did, and so you just are, you know, you're moving wildly just because you're losing control of yourself versus just like
Mhm.
this it felt weird. It's just this guy just like, all right, here we go, like just dancing
Yeah,
around. He
exactly.
was kind of doing a little bit of a like a return the slab for me, a little courage moment.
Return the slab. Yeah. No,
Definitely.
I agree with that 100%. The other thing about this movie too that really gets me is that after researching the film and realizing that they did change a lot from the original script, you can see a lot of the remnants of what they were planning on doing. And the one thing that pisses me off is that it's heavily insinuated that this Leatherface that we're dealing with is the original guy, but there's no way in hell that it can be. And the reason why is when they show you that picture on the orphanage wall, it's dated 1975. And the kid that's like scratched out is, I'm assuming, supposed to be Leatherface, the guy, the Leatherface in this movie.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
There is no way that that's the same Leatherface, because he was a fully grown man in the original massacre. He was a fully grown
It's
adult.
true.
So when people are like, "Oh yeah, that's Leatherface," that's like, no, I don't know who that is. That's not Leatherface. That's not Leatherface.
That's that's Suede face. I don't know. Like,
Yeah, who
dang.
knows? Like, for real. And yeah, the other thing that bothers me about this movie is that they removed the cannibalism element.
Yeah. I was
The whole entire shtick for Texas Chainsaw Massacre is that they're cannibals. How are you going to take the cannibalism element out of the movie and expect it to just be like, all right, we're cool with that?
yeah, I like, cuz I knew that the original involved cannibalism, and so I'm like waiting to see this guy like feeding upon people, and I'm like, it's not happening. Okay. Did I get that wrong? Did I confuse it with another movie? I'm happy you said that though, and I mean, you did mention it earlier too when you were explaining the scene where they're eating people in front of her in the original.
Hmm.
But yeah, they just kind of took a
Yeah.
core part away from this character. That ain't the original Leatherface. That's Suede face. Suede face don't eat
No,
people.
it's lies. It's all
He's
lies.
vegetarian.
Okay, so since this is a slasher movie, we have to I have to ask, what was your favorite kill in the entire movie?
Hmm. Um. I think it was one of the party bus kills where like I should have made a better note of this. It's because I didn't watch it twice.
It's okay. It's fine.
um, I mean, can I just say the party bus scene as a whole? Honestly,
Yeah, you can.
yeah. Okay, we're gonna go with that this
You
go
can.
around. Apologies for not having a specific one. It just
Yeah, it was a slog to get through.
it was
I would just say
painful.
I would just say Dante's.
Oh, okay, really? Don't
I when they revealed his face, I was like, oh, because I thought he chopped him in the neck. When he chopped
um,
him, I thought he chopped him in the neck. So, and then of course the way he fell, you couldn't see the side of his face. All you
mhm.
saw was like the blood. So when he turned around to Richter and his whole side of his face was like, the jaw was hanging off, I was like, oh, I was like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. That was gross.
You know what? I actually am
I
gonna
just
go
thought
with
he
the
was gonna be
first
like squirting
initial
blood.
kill, the bone kill.
The what?
Bone
The
kill.
bone kill?
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Good.
I'm gonna go with
Yeah.
that
Because
one.
I was like, the party bus is great, but they did have some pretty decent kills in this movie if you're somebody who's just really into that.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed them for what they were. I mean, as you can see, not really memorable in the moment I was watching it. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, but um, really, I the movie was just so slow paced for me. A lot of the time, I was working on like editing social stuff for the Instagram and everything. I was just like, okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I completely understand. I watched it and I was going to watch it again before I wrote my facts and stuff down, but I was like, I can't do it again. I'm just going to like write from as much as I can remember and then look the rest up on Wikipedia. And I didn't even need to do that. I remembered enough to
Yeah, I remember you
to
telling
tell
me
the
you're like,
story.
I actually remembered this whole movie, and I'm like, I'm happy you did because I
Well,
completely
there
blacked
wasn't
out.
much to it. That's why. There wasn't
True.
much to it. That's why. But yeah, so what skull rating would you give this movie?
Uh, 1.5.
One and a
That's
half. Okay,
a bit
why?
generous.
Why would you give it that?
I give it 1.5. I'm giving it the 1.5 because, for one, Sally, justice for Sally. Just gonna get that out of the way right
Justice for
now.
Sally.
We didn't have to go full Lori with it, but like, she should have been there to see him die. You know, I
Mhm.
was rooting for this girl. Okay, um,
Yeah.
just a cast I can't connect with. The ending was blah. Um, the fact that I just wasn't like interested throughout the movie, like it doesn't take much to keep me hooked. Um,
Right.
and this could not do that for me. And I know I've said
Mhm.
in the past, like I like slashers where you just get a bunch of idiots together and we watch them die, but this wasn't this didn't hit the mark. Like
Yeah,
they annoyed me. They weren't quite lovable idiots. They were just annoying.
idiots.
Yeah.
They were just
They're
idiots.
just idiots. No, that's why I gave it
um,
the rating I did. But what about you? What would your skull rating be?
I would probably rate it a 1 out of 5 skulls. This movie was boring. It was um unmemorable for the most part. I mean, yeah, I remembered enough to like flesh it out, but that's just because I had to. Like, I feel like if I didn't have to write the script this week for this, I probably wouldn't have remembered anything about this movie until you started talking.
Yeah.
Like, if it was you doing it, I would have been like, oh, yeah, 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 but I wouldn't
That
have
was
remembered
my
anything.
experience on my end this week. I was like, "Oh yeah, that did happen."
Yeah, I forced myself to retain it. I forced
Yeah.
myself to
As
retain
much
it.
as I enjoyed the
Um,
party bus scene, I did not remember it until you said it. I will put it that way.
yeah.
Yeah.
The only reason I remember the party bus scene is because everyone was talking about it when this movie came out.
Mm.
Everyone was like, "It's the only good thing about this movie," and I was like, "Oh," and then when I saw it, I was like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, like, you're right, it is the only good thing about this whole movie." It was just gory for the sake of gore. There was no real reasoning, behind anything that was going on, like, it just was stupid. The whole thing was dumb, and I feel bad for people who genuinely love Texas Chainsaw Massacre because this
Mhm.
had to have felt like a punch in the face, but it's okay because we Halloween fans got it at the end of the year with Halloween Ends.
There you go.
Um, the worst entry in the entire franchise, and I will stand by that. Um, but yeah, it's just it's depressing when you love something that much and then it's like it just falls apart that way because and it seems like overall the biggest issue was that it was a lot of it was locked in development hell.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what the biggest issue was, is it was locked in development hell. They started planning this movie back when the origin of Leatherface came out, and then they, had a bunch of stuff happen between then and the time they started writing and filming, and, you change directors, you have creative differences, and it's just like, at some point in time, you've gotta let it go, and that's kind of my worry about, like, the Five Nights at Freddy's movie because that one it has been in development hell, and now it's coming out just after they announced that the cast list, and I'm
Mhm.
like, is that gonna be good or is that gonna be trash? Because it's been in development
Yeah.
hell since, like, 2016, 2015, 2016, and, like, all of a sudden now the movie's coming out, like, in a few months, so,
Yeah, it feels
I hope
weird
that doesn't
to me too.
yeah, I hope that doesn't happen, but yeah, no, I felt like this movie was a waste of time, but I think it's also good because I don't think we should always, like, have things that we absolutely love that
Yeah.
we watch, we should have things that sometimes we don't like, and this was definitely one of them, and I'm actually kinda glad I watched it in the sense of, like, now I kind of understand why everyone went in the horror community was just enraged when it came out. Now I'm kinda like I'm not enraged by it because I don't have any connection to the
Same.
franchise, but I'm like, "Yeah, it's kinda stinky. It's a stinky movie. It's not good. It's not a good movie. It's not fun. It's not enjoyable. The only part I love is when Melody gets beamed with the hammer and goes flying because she looks like a rag doll. Just I mean, they must have used some dummy for that because she just went flying across
Mhm.
the room. It was
I
hilarious.
I do love the car driving away really slowly, and she's just like, "No." I If you've watched, Hey Arnold, it was giving the, like, "Wait,
Mhm.
wait, come back, wait."
Someone someone needs to take that scene. I'm sure someone has. Take that scene and put whatchamacallit, oh my god, put like, I don't know, the Wii music over that scene or something as she's slowly driving away as just something comedic because it's just such a comedic scene. Like as
We need
she's
to
like,
meme we need to meme the
no!
heck
Oh my
out of
god.
this scene, please.
Oh my god, but yeah, if you guys want to watch this movie, absolutely, it's on Netflix. It is a Netflix exclusive, so I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. So you don't have to worry about like it vanishing off of Netflix and you not being able to watch it. I wouldn't recommend it personally, but if you like to torture yourself, by all means,
By all Come on
by
down
all
to
means,
Netflix.
come on down to Netflix. They've got Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022, and it is garbage.
Yeah, get ready. Just ugh. Um, okay then. Shall we move into news?
Yes, let's move into news. So I have two things this week for you, and I'm going to share my screen. Well, actually, I'm going to wait before I share my screen for this first one. So we all know the show American Horror Story, right? For some reason, that show's still running. I forgot that it was still running until like I was rewatching some seasons with my roommate. And then I was like, oh my God, there's a new season. I don't even care about the show anymore. I haven't cared about this show since like 2015, 20. No, actually 2017 was the last time I really watched it.
Okay.
Um, well, they're going into their 12th season, and they recently announced somebody who's going to be joining their cast. And I'm going to share who that person is with you to
Okay.
see
Yeah,
what your reaction is.
you were telling me you're really excited for me to
I'm just
find out.
interested in seeing what you think because this has been a very hot topic of discussion in the horror world right now.
Yeah, so I've been avoiding this like the plague.
So, American Horror Story season 12, what we know about AHS Delicate so far. Kim Kardashian is joining American Horror Story season 12. And this season apparently is going to be inspired by Rosemary's Baby.
Why?
Yeah,
You
I
just
feel like a
like
lot of people have had this reaction.
go back
So,
to like
actually, and you know how I feel about Emma Roberts, so I'm already like I was
oh
already
yeah.
out when I saw she was in it. I was like, I'm gone, I'm done. I don't like her. And then they said Kim Kardashian. I was like, oh come on. So apparently, Ryan Murphy, who is a good friend of Kim Kardashian,
Of
of
course.
course, he was uh, apparently impressed with the reality star's acting chops while watching her 2021 Saturday Night Live hosting gig.
Really?
Yeah, I don't watch Saturday Night Live, so I don't know what she was like on there. So,
Nothing
um,
remarkable.
yeah, I'm sure. So this book is it's the new season is going to be based off this book called Delicate Condition, which is coming out soon. And it's supposed to be like a Rosemary's Baby inspired book.
Mhm.
Kim Kardashian is in it, as we said. So far they have her and Emma Roberts. They have not announced anyone else yet. It looks like,
They need to
or
announce
maybe they
somebody else
have.
because right now, like, no one wants to watch this.
Oh wait, they have
They have.
this guy Matt. I don't know how to say his last name.
Mm,
He was in the show The Resident, which I've never heard of. I guess it's a medical show. Yeah, it is a
mm,
medical show that was canceled. Yikes! And
mm.
of course Emma Roberts. We don't care. It's supposed to come out this summer. This new season.
Okay. I'm not thrilled. I'm not thrilled.
No.
Can you just like put out another like lipstick or whatever you do? Like I don't even know. Like
Oh my gosh! No, I don't think she has a makeup line. I think that's just Kylie that has the makeup line.
okay, that's how. Okay, so then what was it? The Skims or whatever? Like, can you just
Oh yeah, she does those bras that are like awful. That like they have like the sizes that are like super big, but then when like women with like actual big breasts put them on, they just cover like the nipple. That's it.
brilliant? Yeah, go
It's like
back to doing
it's
that.
like who are these for again? I don't know. I don't know anybody that can wear that. Yeah, I'm not thrilled about it either. But I also care very little about American Horror Story, and I haven't really cared about American Horror Story since Cult ruined that for me, since the
Mm,
Cult season ruined that for me. Like that was I did end up watching Apocalypse because my roommate really likes that season, so I did end up watching that one, which it wasn't terrible. I know a lot of people did like Apocalypse, so I'm like, yeah, you know what, guys, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Um, but yeah, no, the I'm not thrilled about Kim Kardashian joining in
yeah, I think
at all.
the last season of American Horror Story I watched was 1984. Uh,
Yeah, I didn't
and
watch that.
yeah, that put a very, very bad taste in my mouth. So I haven't really cared about it for a while now. And this is
Yeah.
definitely adding to that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kim.
I think it's I think it's like a big deal for a lot of people that this is happening because she is such a polarizing figure,
Yeah.
and a lot of people feel like she's gotten a lot of, we all feel like she's gotten a lot of stuff in her life that she doesn't necessarily deserve.
Mhm.
So people see her joining a popular horror franchise and they're like, "Oh, come on, get out."
I just feel like there's so many, like, great actors and actresses in the horror
Hmm.
community that we could use in American Horror
Yeah,
Story,
except for
but instead we're gonna just choose somebody who's very relevant right now so we can get more views from people who aren't necessarily horror fans, and I think you could do that more
yeah,
with your writing and the theme that you choose for the season versus
absolutely.
the, reality TV star that you're putting in here.
Mhm. And it's like I know that horror has forayed into having reality TV stars in the movies
Mhm.
before. I mean, everybody clowns on Paris Hilton, but I think also that Paris Hilton's never really took herself all that seriously.
No.
So when she was in House of Wax, when she was in House of Wax, she was promoting the fact that she died in the movie. She was like proud of it.
Yeah.
She really had like t-shirts that said "See Paris Die," because she knew people didn't like her and they would go see the movie
Mhm.
to watch her get impaled through the head. And I absolutely love her in Repo the Genetic Opera.
Mhm.
She's like, I mean, I love Repo the Genetic Opera as it is, but she's like the perfect amount of just like that trashy, like, I am addicted to plastic surgery, like, thing. And I'm like, you know what? She never took herself seriously. And I have mad respect. We respect Paris Hilton in this house now.
Absolutely.
I just have mad respect for her. I watched her documentary, so we respect Paris Hilton in
Same,
this house
same
now.
in this house
I'm
too.
like, I'm like, she's a queen. She's a queen. She's
She is an
beautiful.
absolute
She's beautiful.
queen,
With grace.
and I don't know,
Um,
this feels just like,
mhm.
weird casting. Ryan Murphy saying that it was after seeing her acting abilities in SNL. It feels more like after seeing how much her name's been popping up in the media
Mhm.
and knowing that this could
Mhm.
bring him in more views, thus more money. Like, sounds more like Friends using
Exactly.
Friends, but what do I know?
Exactly. All right. And then my other bit of news that I have this week, let me share my screen again. I don't have to do a surprise one for this one necessarily. Um, so Stranger Things is ending in 2025, but it's not really because they're getting an animated spin-off series.
Yeah,
So
this is
get ready.
interesting.
Yeah, so it says get ready to enter the Upside Down in a completely different form. A new animated version of the Stranger Things universe is officially in the works at Netflix. As reported by Variety, the series is still in its very, very early stages, so not a lot is known about what's to come, like the voice cast or the exact plot. However, original Stranger Things creators, the Duffer Brothers, are set to executive produce the new show, and creator Eric Robles and Flying Bark Productions are also attached. What has been confirmed is that the animated series will be set within the same world as the original show. And just like the original series itself, the animated Stranger Things series will harken back to the 80s with a nostalgic inspiration and retro feel. So they want to do a show that feels like the shows that you used to watch in Saturday morning cartoons in the 80s. And I'm actually pretty excited about that because that aesthetic would be really cool to see, like,
Yes.
come forward. That would be really cool to see them bring that sort of retro style aesthetic um back to the back to TV.
Yeah, exactly.
Um I would love to see that, but I'm excited. I mean, I'm a huge Stranger Things fan, so I'm like any new Stranger Things content that we get, I'm down for it.
Same. I think this will be really cool because it's kinda like what, we were saying we want from, like, for Welcome Home, the horror
Mhm.
AGR or ARG, to turn into.
Mhm.
This is kind
Yeah.
of giving that where it's like, yeah, let's have, like, a horror-focused show that it's like a show of a show almost, and, like, you're getting the vibes
Mhm.
that you're watching this, like, old media from the '80s, but there's gonna be
Mhm.
something sinister, like an underlying thing. I don't know,
Yeah.
I really wanna see
We'll see.
what
Yeah.
this is.
W-
Yeah.
w- Me too.
I wanna see
Excited. I
the
mean,
art
they've had
style.
some. Yeah, I'm excited to see what the art style is gonna be. I hope it's like that retro, old school '80s
Same.
art style. They have been announcing quite a bit of stuff for Stranger Things this week. They also announced that they're coming out with a novel later this year, of the of what Eddie Munson was doing while all this was going on in the before his demise in the show. And I'm like, I don't even care if all he's doing is just playing guitar in the book. Like all he's doing is just playing guitar and like chilling with his band and playing D&D. I will read that book. I will read that book. Like, don't test me. I'm gonna be first one in line at Barnes and Noble. Like, give me this book. Give me this book.
The book is just
So
like Eddie, just like, Dear Diary. Yeah. And it's like,
yeah,
oh
Dear
my God, this
Diary.
book is
I'm gonna go play.
incredible.
Actually, the whole book is just like his D&D campaign.
You know what? That would be dope. That would be dope.
That would be pretty cool. But yeah, so yeah, there's some cool things coming about Stranger Things. I know they announced that London is putting on a play in West End, which is supposed to be Vecna's origins. I
Mm.
hope that we will get some form of physical media to watch of that, because I'm not going to London anytime soon, so I won't be able to see it. So yeah, I mean, Stranger Things, they're expanding it in a lot of great ways. There's also supposed to be another live action spin-off show that's supposed to take place, I think, in the 90s or something.
Okay.
They're working on. But yeah, they're milking this for all it's worth, and I for one couldn't be happier about it because I've been a fan literally since day zero, pretty much. When I first saw the trailer, I was like, I want to watch the show because Winona Ryder's in it, and that's all that
Truth.
matters. And then I watched it, and then I was like, no, this show is amazing. This show is
Yeah.
amazing. Like, sorry, I love the show.
That's awesome
So
though. I'm really excited to see where this goes, and like I said before, the art style.
I can't wait to see what they do with it. We'll follow this, guys. We're gonna follow this project very closely and let you guys know as more stuff comes out about it. If you like Stranger Things, this is definitely something we are going to keep an eye on, so we can continue to tell you what they're going to be doing with this animated TV series that's
Yeah.
supposed to feel like you're watching an 80s cartoon. I wonder if it's going to be like a He-Man style.
Oh my gosh, can you imagine? I will literally sit in front of the TV watching this with like some sugar cereal in my
I was gonna say with a
pajamas.
bowl of cereal
Yep.
in your pajamas. Yeah. I mean, I know we're both '90s babies, but it's like they had '80s cartoons playing when we were kids in the '90s,
Not only
so
that,
we did
but
that.
our siblings are all born in the 80s, so we have a lot of
Hmm.
influence and
A lot of
grew up with a
influence.
lot of
Yep.
like,
Yep.
80s
That's
material basically around us.
exactly. Yeah. That's why I like pushed them to watch Stranger Things because I was like, this is nostalgia for you guys. You guys know. You guys lived this. I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't live this. You did. And they're like, "Yeah, I remember riding my bike. I remember doing this." I'm like, "Yes,
Remember
see?
writing.
See, watch the show." I remember playing this game. Like it's actually funny because one of the years that they had like Stranger Things at Halloween Horror Nights, I forgot what year it was, but they had like a recreation of one of the rooms, and or like they had a recreation of the Upside Down in one of the rooms, and they had like a new Coke machine
Oh yeah.
in the room, and we were walking through it, and my brother just goes, "Oh my gosh, I remember the new Coke." I'm just like, I'm like, yes, yes, the new
The
Coke.
new
I
Coke.
wasn't alive. I don't know anything about the new Coke.
Samesies.
Exactly. Like, we weren't alive. We weren't around. But yeah. So I mean, it's cool. I was like, I have nostalgia for a time I didn't even live in, but I lived vicariously through my siblings' stories.
Exactly, yeah, like, what is it, like, home movies and stuff that we see of them,
Home
and
movies, pictures,
yeah,
family photos, and yeah, absolutely.
but we hold it down
All
for the
right.
90s.
Yes, we hold it. Oh yeah, no, we '90s and 2000s. 2000s. I could tell you about them Bratz dolls. I could tell you about Barbie too.
I can only tell you about Barbie.
I'm
I
actually
was terrified of Bratz.
I'm like stupidly excited for the Barbie movie.
Me too.
Stupidly
I've
excited.
been wanting to post memes on,
So
Instagram all week 'cause of the, horror movie characters with the Barbie.
she's everything. He's just Ken.
He's just
I like there's like one clip I saw from the trailer that like sent me. I know this is not horror based, but it's just so funny. It was just like Ken standing in like on the beach and he's like, "Hi Barbie," and she's like, "Hi Ken." And then everyone just starts saying hi Barbie, and like all everyone's like, "Hi Barbie." She's like, "Hi Ken. Hi Barbie. Hi Ken." And then like Ryan Gosling's Ken just starts to get irritated. He's
yes.
like, "Oh." I'm like I was like, he's just so good at being a himbo. Like he's so good at
Yes.
it. He got so mad that she was paying attention to other people. He was just like not mad, but like a little kid, just like he's
Yeah,
like
he's like, "What about me?"
but I said hi first. Like you like
Does
love
that not count
me.
for
So
anything here?
Although people are like saying that there might be like a horror element to it, like horror Twitter is trying to claim the Barbie movie, and I'm
Let's
like,
do
I mean,
it.
if there's a horror element to it,
Let's do it. Let's claim it. I'm totally down
claim
for
it. It's
that.
ours. It's ours. Margot Robbie, Ryan Gosling, you belong to us.
Yep. um, shall we move into our next segment of the episode?
Yes, our last segment of the episode, as you guys know, we always like to do something random and talk about random horror things at the end of every episode to sort of show you our tastes, what we like, what we don't like, what we love. And this week, we don't have a list, so you guys can don't have to freak out that there's like, oh my gosh, there's so many things to think about. Um, this week, it is the horror movie that traumatized you. Now, is a horror movie this is a horror movie that messed your world up, a horror movie that made you like question life, and a horror movie that maybe you say you will never watch again. Like I won't touch it.
Mhm.
And of course, we leave the discussion open. You guys can always let us know what horror movie traumatized you the most. You might agree with our picks. You might disagree with our picks. You might think we're pansies. You might think we're hard. We're tough. Um, and you might be surprised by our picks. I actually don't know what Gina picked, so I'm excited to
I
see
don't
what
know
to
how
hear
you
what she
don't
picked.
know what I
I don't remember. I mean, maybe I don't. Maybe when you say it, I'll be like, oh yeah, I should have known. But right now, off the top of my head, I'm like, I don't even know what the heck you're gonna pick.
yeah, for real. You should have known.
All right,
You should have
of
known.
course. But all right, Gina, take it away.
So the horror movie that has traumatized me in my life and still does to this day, I will never watch this movie again, is the original It with Tim Curry.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. And the reason why I say you should have known is from all the times we've spent together and we'll be up late, like talking when we were kids. And you would say
hmm
something, you would say, like, oh yeah, Pennywise. And I'm like, why did you say that? Why? I would get so offended. I'm like, now I can't
I
sleep
was
tonight. I can't sleep for the
to
rest of the
be
month.
fair. To be fair, I was talking about a band, not the actual Pennywise, because I didn't even know that that was the clown's name when I was a kid. I was talking about the band. There was a
Which is an
band called
amazing band.
Pennywise.
Oh, I know.
Yes,
Incredible
yeah.
band.
So that's who I was talking about. I wasn't trying to intentionally scare you. I was just talking about a rock band.
But you would say something like that, and I didn't like. I couldn't even say the name Pennywise when I was young. I had to say it the
hmm
clown. That's how I referred to him. And like,
Very formal.
yeah, yeah. Well, I wanted to show some respect, so then he would maybe like not bother me.
Fair
I
enough.
had such a belief, and like all the way up until like my 18th birthday, I was like, I can't wait to turn 18, so then this clown can't hurt me anymore. I I never saw the movie in that span. This is all comes from me not ever seeing the movie. I did see it, I think when I was 20. I finally watched the movie. I had stayed up really, really late at a friend's house, and
hmm
I ended up falling asleep actually before the like finale of the movie when you see he's like a weird spider alien thing.
Spider
But I
form, yeah.
yeah, but I knew what was gonna happen. Um
hmm
And, actually, I think this was right before the new It came out, like It Part 1. Um, and so I had watched it, and, like, that whole night, I had the craziest nightmares, and, like, we were going to, Busch Gardens the next day and, like, staying in Tampa, and, like, I was terrified, like, just sleeping in the hotel room, like, it just messed with me so much. I had built so much hype around being afraid of this particular
hmm
movie, that it just stays with me to this day. I cannot watch that again. Those scenes, the framing, Tim Curry's performance, phenomenal performance by Tim Curry. But thank you, but no thank you. I will not be watching it again.
I have my preferred Tim Curry performance on my wall. I have a Rocky Horror Picture
There you
Show
go.
poster.
Yeah, we can
I'm like, hi,
we
boo.
can watch that all day, all night, but
Oh, all
Tim
day.
Curry's It, I just cannot do it. I used to, back in the day when we would go to Blockbuster every Saturday to rent
hmm
our movie for the night. Um,
hmm
I could not walk by the aisle. they had the cover posted at the end of an aisle, so you would see it when
I
you're
remember.
walking to choose what aisle you're gonna go down, and I couldn't I had to, like, close my eyes and run past that aisle. I could not do it, and of course
I remember you doing that.
yeah, yeah, I was gonna say, I'm sure you
I
remember
remember you doing that.
because, it was over by where the PlayStation games were, and we would try to, like, get over
Mhm.
there.
We were trying to get to Mary-Kate and Ashley.
Oh, Magical Mystery Mall.
Magical Mystery Mall.
Heck yeah. Totally Angelica, I think that was another one we rented.
Totally Angelica, yep,
Yeah.
we rented that one, it was always that one, and then, like, there was a Barbie game we used to rent
Oh, heck
too.
yeah.
Yeah,
Harvey.
so good times, good times. God, I miss Blockbuster,
Same, bring it back. But
for real.
like, oh gosh, it just really haunted me laying in bed at night. I felt like I would have like this vision when I would lay in bed with my
Mhm.
eyes open and I would see the outline of a clown standing over me. Like it just
Mhm.
took over my life. Um Now the new It, I can watch that all day, all night. I'm totally fine with that performance. And I think it was funny too because you were bringing this up last week when we were recording,
Mhm.
and you were just
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, no, I like the newer one. The newer one is scary and everything. The old one, like, whatever." And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." Oh.
Yeah. I mean, like I said last week, I was afraid of Pennywise when I was a kid. I was afraid of him because I just feared clowns in general, like any clowns, anything with clowns. But because I didn't expose myself to that media, I think I didn't build as much of a hype up in my head of how scary the movie was. And then when I finally watched it when I was like a fully grown adult, I was like, this is low key kind of boring. It's not, there's really not a lot that's going on. And his performance was fantastic,
Mhm,
but I was watching it, I just remember just being like, "Yeah, this is." I mean, I'm pretty sure if I was a kid and I watched this, it would have ruined my life. I
mhm.
would have been like, and at that time, I was still afraid of clowns. That's the crazy part is I was still terrified of clowns when I watched it. Like, I couldn't watch American Horror Story Freak Show without freaking out over Twisty.
Mhm.
Like that's how like I would have a panic attack when clowns would come on the screen. I would just be like, I don't want to look at them. I don't want to look at them. Like freak out. I would like look away. And I watched it, and I was like, I don't like when he's on the screen, but there was just too much in between him
Yeah.
and like the rest of it, and it was bad acting and like bad writing and just boring. So I'm sitting there going, oh my god, John Ritter's such a good actor, but he's like terrible in this movie. Like what the heck? You're just cringing like listening to them talk. You're like, it's just cheesy like 90s, like late 80s early 90s like dialogue. And like I said, it kind of muted Tim Curry's performance. And I think it's because, like I said, I was a fully grown adult, and also because I wanted to see it chapter one so badly. I was like, I got to sit through this movie. I sat through it, and I was like, well, yeah, Tim Curry was scary, but everything. I mean, he was good. Like he kind of creeped me out, but I mean, there was just too much dead space between him and like between actual stuff and like going on and like the next thing he was going to be in. So it's like you kind of forgot that he was there, and then when he'd show up, you're like, oh yeah, yeah. And then honestly, his part where he's like, "Do you have Prince Albert in a can? Well, you better let him out." And the stupid laugh. I'm just like, that part is actually. My friend used to do that. One friend, she used to do that all the time. She would just like, we'd be on the phone and she would be like, "Do you have Prince Albert in a can?" And I'm like, "Shut up!" I'm like, don't you dare! After I watched the movie, so I knew where it was from. But yeah, no, I completely understand though where you're coming from because yeah, it's definitely one of those like they call it the childhood trauma genre of movies.
Absolutely, and it got me good and still gets me to this day. I mean, like I said, I didn't watch it till I was an adult either, and it messed me up then, and I was just like, "I'm a child at heart, and he must know it, so he's gonna come after me for that."
Coming for your
My
knees.
knees. So, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, but you could have Bill Skarsgård Pennywise coming out of a fridge at you, and you'd be like,
I'd
"Yeah."
be like, "Hey, man, what's up?" And he's like, "You weren't afraid?" And I was like, "No, no, I was wondering where you were."
It was real enough for Georgie.
He needs to chill with all that.
I love that scene. That scene is great. That whole movie's
It
great. That
is, it's
movie's one of the best
fantastic.
movies ever.
Uh,
All right.
but yeah, that's basically it for me. I take a shot every time I've said it, by the way. Since we're doing that today. But yeah, it just messed up. It's messed up. And
It
it
is.
messed me up.
Stephen King, what's wrong with you? What's
For
wrong with you,
real.
Stephen King?
That being
We need to
said, though, I
speak
love
with
you.
you. Yeah, love you. Love you, Stephen.
Love
Love you, Stephen.
you.
If you ever see this clip, we love you. You're the best.
Send it to him. But yeah, do you want to talk about what has messed you up? I'm curious if it's something that I know or not.
You know it. You know it.
Okay.
So originally I was actually going to pick The Exorcist
Okay.
because that movie was sort of like the movie that my mom would hype up in my head, and I thought it was going to be really dumb, especially after my sister said it was really dumb and said it made her laugh, and then I watched it and I had nightmares. Um, but then I realized I'd probably watch it again to see if I had that same effect on me.
Mm.
Like I'd probably watch it again. I think it freaked me out so much just because like when I watched it, it was like had my mom's voice in the back of my head the entire time. Just I left the theater. I left the theater. I couldn't do it. I left the theater.
I
So
actually think that I could be wrong, but I think our parents went on a double date
I'm pretty sure they did. I'm
to
pretty
see
sure our
it
parents
because
went on a
it
double
scared
date.
both my mom and my dad as well, and they couldn't sleep that night.
Yeah, my mom left the theater. She didn't even finish the movie.
I gotta
She
ask
said
if
once the
they
yeah, yeah. Once she said once she heard the voice, she was like, "I'm out."
were together.
And it, like I said, it scared the crap out of me, and I don't know if it was again, I don't know if it was because of my mom or not. So I'm willing to give it another shot. However, the movie I'm about to talk about, I never want to see again. I never want to hear about again. And if anybody wants to comment on this video and say, "Oh, I thought it was funny," because I've seen people say this movie, they thought it was funny. I think you're a sick human being, and I think you need to be on a list.
Mm.
And that movie is Megan is Missing.
Oh.
I will never, ever, ever in a million years watch this movie. I won't even recommend this movie to anybody. I won't do it. Um, it's a found footage horror movie, and it was blowing up on TikTok in 2020. People, and here's the thing: I'm a glutton for punishment. Mostly because whenever I see those stupid TikToks and stupid Facebook posts where people are like, I couldn't finish this movie. I couldn't finish this movie. It was so scary and it made me cry. I'm like, click, turns it on. Oh, please. This isn't that scary. Like that last year, the big movie that everybody was crying about was the movie Incantation. It was a
Yeah.
Taiwanese horror film. A very well done film, not that scary. People were like, I couldn't even finish it. I couldn't sit through it. It just made me, I'm like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, I have to start going. Do you guys watch horror movies, or do you not watch horror movies? Because I feel like you don't. If that scares you that bad that you're shutting the TV off. However, so I'm like I said, I'm a glutton for punishment. And earlier in 2020, there was a movie that was blowing up called Antrum, where it was a found footage movie that was apparently cursed and would, kill the person who watched it when they watched it. And I watched it on Easter Sunday. I don't know if it's considered sacrilegious or not, but I watched it on Easter Sunday, and it was a really interesting film. It was very creative, very very unsettling, but it didn't scare me. I went to bed. I didn't have any nightmares. I was fine. I woke up the next day and I was like, okay, I'm good. It didn't stick with me.
Mhm.
Megan is Missing was one of those movies that I did not expect to mess me up the way that it did. Um, and since it's a lesser known film, I'm going to explain a little bit about it without going into anything that can get us like flagged.
Yeah.
um, uh, but it is a found footage horror movie, and it's about two young girls who are friends. One is a little bit of a wild child, and the other is like a goody two shoes. She has a great relationship with her parents, and the other one doesn't have such a great relationship with her parents. The wild child is into all the typical wild child things, going out partying, hooking up with boys, drinking, doing illegal substances. And one day she meets a guy online. And now you have to remember this movie was made in the stages of the internet when stranger danger on the internet was a huge thing, a
Mhm.
massive thing. And this movie plays very hard into the fears of it. However, it takes that fear and cranks it up to 11. Now, I will say the movie is really poorly acted. Um, and I think in some ways it's done that way on purpose because it's supposed to
Yeah.
feel very realistic. It's very poorly acted. It's a found footage horror movie, so you don't know anybody that's in it. And of course, Megan goes to meet this guy she met on the internet, and she disappears. And then the rest of the movie is everybody trying to figure out what the heck happened to Megan. And then we see what happened to Megan. And that was the moment when my jaw dropped, my stomach dropped, and I was like, I made a mistake. I
Yeah,
made a terrible,
I shouldn't have come here.
terrible mistake. Like, I will say this: if I don't recommend watching this movie, but if you're one of those people who are morbidly curious, if when you see the frame that says photo number one, you've got about 15 seconds to turn the movie off if you're not ready to see a child, and I mean this literally,
Yes.
a child in a torture device. A child. The rest of the movie after that scene is brutal, violent torture. It is 20 minutes of unrelenting, intimate partner violence, essentially.
Hmm.
Um, and then it ends with a very long shot of a man digging a grave as a child, again, is begging for her life.
Yes.
And then the ending of the movie basically leaves you with this feeling of hopelessness because they admit that they could never find the person who did that to Megan and her friend who got dragged into it as well. And I think I would put this as the movie that traumatized me the most that I will never watch again because it's just too damn real, too close to the bone. I mean, when I was watching the movie and like at first I kind of was like, wow, the acting's really bad. And then I stopped and I thought about it. I said, but you know what? Some of the stuff they're doing in this movie, it's like conversations I would have had with my friend at that age, my friends at that age.
Yeah.
And in the movie, those girls were the age I was at that time, like when the movie was made.
Hmm.
So like they were like 14, 13, 14, and I was like 13, 14. So it's like I was kind of like watching the movie and going, yeah, my friends would act cringy like that.
Yeah.
And we would, they're teenagers. So I'm going to give them a free pass for this. And then it got to that ending sequence and I was like, I understand the message, but did you really have to be that graphic
You go
with
that
it?
far.
I
Yeah.
understand the message. Like you went too far. You went too far showing the amount of violence that you showed. It ruined my Thanksgiving. I watched the movie the day before Thanksgiving and I couldn't shake it for the rest of the
You gotta
weekend.
stop
I was
watching these
literally just
movies on holidays.
I just was like bored. I mean, it was during quarantine, so I was bored. I had nothing better to do, and I was like, you know what? Everyone's crying on TikTok. Like people were like, I threw up watching this movie. I literally threw up watching the last 20 minutes of this movie, or like one they showed you one video of this girl, like not they didn't show you what was on the screen, but they showed you her reactions, and she's literally like hysterically sobbing, and I'm like, God, what's in this movie? I never even heard of this movie till just now. And they're like, she's like, turn it off, turn it off, turn it off. Like, I'm like, what the hell is in this movie? I gotta watch it. I put it on. I literally went straight to YouTube, rented it for like $1, watched it, and I was like, I made a mistake. I should not have done that. I should have just left this one to TikTok. They should have enjoyed that. They could cry about that one. I'm good. I'm good.
See, I found it really interesting when it started blowing up on TikTok because I had watched this movie when it came out. Well, around the time when it came out, it was on Netflix still. And what was very interesting was this was the time when I had
It was on
watched. Yeah,
Netflix. That's wild.
yeah, dude, it was on Netflix. So remember years and years ago when I had called you up and I was like, you need to watch this Amber Alert movie, the one where they're
Oh yeah,
arguing.
that movie was funny.
Oh god.
Yeah, that movie was funny.
So I had watched that one first, and I was just like, you
Mhm.
need to just watch these people argue in the car for like an hour. Um,
Mhm.
and then I had watched Megan is Missing afterwards. And what I find really interesting right now is I had watched it, but I never suggested it to you because I was like, nah, this one will freak them out too much. Um, and for me, I the movie did not scare me. It did not freak me out. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and be like I was entertained by the movie because I don't think that's the right
Mhm.
wording to use, but I had just like watched it and carried on with my life. The parts of the movie that I guess I would say I found in quotes here funny was like you could see a boom mic in the background during the party scene, that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So
Yeah.
those are the things that I laughed at like as it was building up to the ending.
Mhm.
And then
Now I've seen people on TikTok, like, in the comments straight up say they laughed through the ending, and not like I was laughing through the ending of nervous
Yeah,
laughter
yeah.
because it was kind of like a, what the hell is happening sort of thing. Like it was like a trauma response over the
Oh,
way I was laughing. It
absolutely.
was like a trauma response. But people were saying I thought it was so funny when they showed the pictures of her in the trap and everything. Oh my god, I was like, "Ah, Jigsaw." And I'm like, "You need to be on a list." You need, and I'm sure it's probably just some
Yeah,
kid that's like 12 trying to be edgy that probably isn't, maybe just Googled the pictures to
more
see
than
what they look
likely.
like.
Yeah, and that's
And,
the other
and I
thing
know
too,
there's,
if these things do disturb you and you're maybe looking this movie up, like, just,
mhm,
Google, but Google safely because those photos are fully online. I was Googling it while you were talking just now just to see,
yeah,
if they
yeah, they
were,
are, they
and they
are.
are,
I
so
ac I actually made an entire episode for this podcast of Megan is Missing, and I could barely make it through it. I was shaking and,
mm,
like, almost vomiting the entire time, like, dry heaving, so I deleted it.
mm,
It was giving like a trauma response, and I have trauma around some of the things that are featured within that
mhm.
movie, so it was even harder to watch it depicted in such a violent, graphic manner. Um, it was like, and I can understand where there's some people that might be like, "Oh, it didn't bother me too much," and it's like, I'm happy that it didn't bother you too much, but you can't make fun of people who
No,
that
not at
bothers because
all.
that's real stuff. It's not the same as saying like, yeah, demons don't bother me because I'm not a religious person. It's not the same as saying like, Michael Myers doesn't bother me because, I think he's kind of cool. Like this stuff happens to
No,
people.
it
This
does,
stuff
it
happens.
absolutely does. I mean, you put on any true
It
crime
happens.
podcast, you're gonna hear basically what happens in this movie, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So it's just like it reminds me of a lot of that Junko Ferrata case.
Mhm,
Like that case scares me. Like
mhm,
that case, I can't even. I listened to one like podcast about that case, and I was like, I don't want to think about this case ever again in my entire life.
mhm.
And the fact that those men are walking free, I don't want to think about that.
Absolutely.
Like that just scares me that these men are out in the world, like, just living their lives after what they did to that girl.
Mhm,
Nope, I'm good. I'm good. That's, and it's too real. And it's like, I know I'm a very sensitive person. So certain things get under my skin the way other people might be able to detach themselves from them and just be like, yeah, it's a movie, it doesn't bother me that much. I know certain elements of movies get under my skin more so than they get under other people's skin. Um,
but it's all
but I also,
valid.
yeah, but I also feel like at the same time it's like, yeah, like you said, it's valid. I think everybody has their hard pass in horror movies. For
Mhm,
some people, it's like bad things happening to kids.
mhm.
Me personally, it depends on the circumstance when it comes to bad things happening to kids. Clearly, this was a bad situation happening
Yeah,
to kids that I was like, no, no, I'm not even a parent and I don't want to watch
yeah.
this ever again. I don't want to see it. I don't want to know about it. I don't want to think about it. Like get that hard, and it's one of those movies. I know some people might not classify it as a horror movie, but I think it's pretty horrific.
No,
And
it
I think
definitely is.
sometimes real things can be scarier than fiction.
Mhm.
Sometimes reality is scarier than fiction, and I think we have to take that into account when we're watching certain movies that are like maybe thrillers or true crime, because some of them do have very horror movie elements to them, and
Absolutely.
they are scary, and you can sit back. I mean, as much I did watch the Dahmer show just because I was curious, and that show scared the crap out of me, and I
Mhm,
was like, I don't know why I did this to myself. I don't know why I watched this. I don't know. I'm like, I regret it, because I'm like, this is real. This actually happened,
mhm.
and I'm just watching this happening, and I was just like sick after watching it. I was just like, I felt sick. So it's like you can't count reality out as horror because sometimes reality is scarier than fiction.
Very true. Very, very true.
It's scarier than fiction. But yeah, that's my hard pass. Never again. Won't watch it. Don't recommend it. If you're crazy enough to go and watch it, bless you. If you think it's a funny movie and not funny because of the bad acting and the obvious production flaws that are
Yeah.
in the movie. If you think it's a funny movie because of what happens at the end, you're a sick person, and I'm scared of you. A little scared of you if
Yeah,
you think
yeah.
that's funny.
It was interesting that it was on Netflix. I don't think it was on Netflix for very long. Um,
Hmm.
that was when my family had first gotten Netflix, was like
Oh,
2011, 2012-ish. Um,
uh,
and so I was
that was
watching
kind of
with
like the rogue
my
days. That was like the rogue days of Netflix. I don't think they had I
family.
think they had a lot of stuff on there that people would that on here for.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
So I watched it while I was still in high school and everything, and that
Mhm.
definitely, had, like, that perspective had a hand in, I think, how it affected me. I don't know. I took a lesson out of it, that's for sure. A lesson I
Yeah, you were
needed to
like,
take at the time, because
yeah.
stranger danger is definitely a thing.
Mhm. I'll just put it to you this way: if you guys watch Degrassi, the very first episode of Degrassi, where Emma goes and meets Degrassi Next Generation, where Emma goes and meets that guy on the internet, picture that, but 10 times worse.
Yes, exactly. Picture that, but you
Picture
didn't
that,
get
but
out
ten
of that
times worse.
hotel room, and gonna show you
Exactly.
everything that that person
Yep.
could have done. Um,
Yep.
yeah, that's very true,
But
actually.
yeah. But yeah. So well, that's what we have for the horror movies that traumatized us. Let us know what movie was a hard pass for you, and what movie you'll never watch again because it messed you up from top to bottom.
Mhm.
And let us know what you think about our picks if you've ever seen them. I mean, obviously, more than likely, you've probably seen the original It movie.
Yeah. The
If you're
only
not
movie
like
to ever
me, who's
scare
just
me.
yeah, I feel like I feel like in that case when you say that, it's like yeah, every movie is like cake. After that, every movie's a cakewalk. It's just like, are you Pennywise though? Are you
Yeah,
Tim
I'm
Curry's
like,
Pennywise?
"Listen."
No, you don't understand. Like, you walk up to Jason and you're just like, "Are you Pennywise?" "I don't think
No,
so."
you're
"Okay,
not,
you do
so
nothing to me. Get out."
I ain't
In
afraid
fact,
of
no, come here. Give
you.
me a hug.
Yeah.
Give me a hug.
I eat you for
But
lunch.
exactly, Pennywise would mess you up, man.
Yeah.
All right, but that is all the time we have for today. Thank you guys for joining us on our journey.
Thank you.
But thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode.
If you like what you hear and are afraid to miss an episode, you can catch us every Wednesday at noon over on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you choose to listen.
Catch up with us over on Instagram and TikTok at H for Horror Podcast, and feel free to check out our Patreon for exclusive content under the same name. Once again, I've been Shay.
And I've been Gina.
Be safe out there, and we'll see you all in the next episode.
Stay
Stay
spooky.
spooky.